The first thing Amara noticed wasn't the gun. It was the way Kang Min-ho wouldn't meet her eyes. Seoul's most feared man sat on her exam table at midnight, hands folded like a patient waiting for bad news, breathing shallow, jaw clenched, not in anger, but shame. "I've tried everything," he said. "Doctors, specialists, women." He finally looked at her then, eyes dark and desperate. "Nothing works. And if my weakness becomes public, I will lose everything." He slid her financial records across the table. "Help me, Dr. Okonkwo, or watch your life collapse with mine." Amara's fingers trembled as she looked at the documents. Every debt she owed, listed in meticulous detail. Her student loans, Korean won 187 million. Her clinic's failing insurance policy. The mortgage on equipment she'd bought when she still believed hard work equaled success. Even her mother's medical bills back in Lagos, the ones she paid monthly without complaint. "How did you get these?" Her voice came out steadier than her heartbeat. "I bought them." Minho's tone was matter-of-fact, as if he'd purchased groceries instead of her entire financial future. 3 days ago. The bank was very cooperative once I made the right offer. "That's illegal. It's business." He gestured to the paperwork. "Read the terms. I own your debt now, Dr. Okonkwo. All of it. And I can demand full payment whenever I choose." Amara's hands clenched into fists. She was a sexual dysfunction specialist, one of only 5 in Seoul who'd trained specifically in psychosomatic impotence. She'd spent 12 years earning degrees, building her practice, helping patients reclaim intimacy after trauma, assault, medical complications. And now a gangster was blackmailing her. "Get out of my clinic." Minho didn't move. "I'll give you 48 hours to decide. Treat me, follow my treatment plan without question for 6 months, and I'll forgive everyone you owe. Refuse," he stood, buttoning his coat with precise movements. "Refuse, and I'll call in everything by Monday morning. You can't force someone to provide medical care." "I'm not forcing. I'm negotiating." His eyes finally met hers fully, and she saw something beneath the desperation that shocked her: resignation. Like he hated himself for this but would do it anyway. "You're the only one left, Dr. Okonkwo. I've exhausted every other option. So yes, I'm using leverage. Because I'm out of time." He walked to the door, then paused. "I know what you're thinking. That I'm a monster who takes what he wants." His voice dropped lower. "You're right. But I'm also a monster who keeps his word. Help me, and you'll never worry about money again. I promise you that." Then he was gone, leaving only the scent of expensive cologne and the weight of impossible choices. Welcome to Afro-Korean romance stories, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. The next morning, Amara called her lawyer. Attorney Kim Ji-won had been her friend since medical school, pragmatic to a fault and fiercely protective. She looked over the documents with growing horror. "This is real," Ji-won said finally. "He legally purchased your debts from multiple institutions. The contracts are ironclad. Can I fight this? Sue him for coercion. With what money? And against Kang Min-ho." Ji-won set down the papers carefully. "Amara, do you know who he is?" "Really, no. I know he's a criminal. He's the criminal. He controls half of Gangnam's underground economy. He has judges, prosecutors, even police commissioners in his pocket." Ji-won's expression was grim. 3 years ago, a prosecutor tried to bring charges against him. The case disappeared overnight, and the prosecutor took early retirement to spend time with family. That's the kind of power you're dealing with. Amara's stomach churned. "So I have no choice. You have a choice. It's just between 2 terrible options." Ji-won reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "But if you're going to do this, protect yourself. Record everything. Document every interaction. Make him sign a contract that specifies exactly what he can and can't demand. You think I should treat him? I think you've spent your whole life building something beautiful, and refusing will destroy it." Ji-won's eyes were sad. Sometimes survival means compromise. That night, Amara researched Kang Min-ho obsessively. The articles painted a terrifying picture. Bodies found in the Han River. Businesses burned to the ground. Entire rival organizations dismantled in single nights of coordinated violence. The ghost of Gangnam, they called him, Because he moved through Seoul's underworld like smoke, everywhere and nowhere, impossible to catch. But other articles told different stories. A women's shelter in Itaewon, anonymously funded after a domestic violence murder. Youth centers in his territories, keeping teenagers off the streets. Small business owners who praised his protection fees as fair, even protective against worse criminals. Crime rates in his districts that were somehow lower than in areas controlled by legitimate police. He was a monster. But he was a monster with a code. At 3 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. "You're still awake." Minho's voice was rough, like he'd been drinking or hadn't slept. "I can see your lights on." Amara rushed to her window. The street below was empty except for a black sedan, too expensive for this neighborhood, idling beneath a broken streetlight. "Are you watching my apartment?" "I'm protecting my investment. That area isn't safe for a woman alone." A pause, then quieter. "I also wanted to apologize. For threatening you. For being what I am." The unexpected vulnerability stunned her. "Then take back the ultimatum." "I can't. I need you too badly." He exhaled slowly. "Do you know what it's like, Dr. Okonkwo? To have everything, power, money, fear, and still be broken in the one way that matters? To look at yourself and see only weakness." Despite everything, Amara felt the physician in her respond to pain. Impotence isn't weakness. It's your body trying to tell you something. "That I'm damaged goods?" "I already know." Bitterness laced his words. 48 hours, doctor. "Then I need your answer." He hung up before she could respond. 2 days later, Amara walked into the restaurant Minho had specified. It was neutral territory, a high-end Korean barbecue place in Gangnam where they wouldn't be completely alone but could talk privately. Minho was already there, seated in a corner booth with sightlines to all exits. 2 bodyguards flanked the entrance but didn't approach. "You came," he said, something like relief crossing his features. "I came to negotiate." Amara slid a contract across the table, 10 pages she and Ji-won had spent all night drafting. "These are my terms. Read them." Minho scanned the document with the focus of someone accustomed to reviewing contracts for traps. His expression shifted from neutral to surprised to almost impressed. "You want me to release your debts immediately, before treatment begins," he read aloud. "Pay standard medical rates for each session. Agree to sessions only at your clinic during business hours. No contact outside appointments unless emergency. No investigating your personal life further. No interference in your practice." He looked up. "You're demanding I give up all my leverage up front. I'm demanding you act like a patient instead of a kidnapper." Amara held his gaze, refusing to show fear. "If you really need my help, prove you can respect basic boundaries. Otherwise, you're just another powerful man who thinks he can buy people." Something flickered in his dark eyes. Was it respect? Shame? "And if I refuse these terms? Then bankrupt me. Destroy my practice. Do whatever you planned." Her voice remained steady despite her racing heart. "But you'll still be impotent, Mr. Kong. And you'll have lost the only specialist in Seoul who might actually be able to help you." The silence stretched long enough to hurt. Then Minho pulled out a pen. "You're braver than most of my lieutenants," he said, signing each page with precise strokes. "Or more foolish. I haven't decided which. Maybe both." Amara watched him sign away his leverage, hardly believing it. "Why are you agreeing to this?" "Because you're right. I need help, not another possession." He signed the final page, then added something in Korean at the bottom before sliding it back. "There. Your debts are forgiven. But I added one condition." Amara read the addition, her stomach sinking. "Treatment duration. Minimum 6 months. Patient commits to full participation in all recommended therapies." 6 months is how long your most successful case took to show significant improvement, Minho interrupted. "I researched your publication record, Dr. Okonkwo. A 42-year-old executive with PTSD-related sexual dysfunction. You worked with him for 6 months using cognitive behavioral therapy, gradual exposure, and couples counseling. He's now happily married with a child. The accuracy was unsettling. You really did your homework. I investigate everything that matters to me. And this," he gestured between them. "This matters more than you know." Despite her wariness, Amara found herself curious. Why me? There are other specialists. Less complicated ones. Because you actually care. Minho's expression softened almost imperceptibly. I read your patient testimonials. You stayed 3 hours past closing to talk a assault survivor through a panic attack. You reduced fees for patients who couldn't afford treatment. You published papers arguing for better insurance coverage of sexual health services. He leaned forward slightly. You don't just treat symptoms, Dr. Okonkwo. You treat people. And I'm tired of being treated like a problem to solve. Something in his words resonated painfully. How many patients had she fought for, advocated for, while her own life crumbled under debt? Fine. 6 months. She extended her hand. But the moment you threaten me or violate these terms, I'm done. Contract or not. His palm was warm when he shook, his grip firm but not crushing. Agreed. Thank you, Dr. Okonkwo. Don't thank me yet. This is going to be hard work. Everything worth having is. He released her hand slowly, as if reluctant. When do we start? Their first official session was scheduled for the following Monday. Amara spent the weekend preparing, reviewing case studies of psychosomatic impotence, trauma-induced sexual dysfunction, and performance anxiety in high-stress individuals. She treated everyone from assault survivors to soldiers with PTSD, but never someone like Kang Min-ho. Never someone whose profession required violence. Whose power came from fear. Monday morning, he arrived exactly on time. The clinic receptionist, Mrs. Cho, nearly fainted when Min-ho walked through the door. He was dressed more casually today. Dark slacks, a fitted black button-down, but still carried himself with the authority of someone used to commanding rooms. Mr. Kong, Amara greeted him professionally, ignoring Mrs. Cho's shocked expression. Please come in. Her exam room looked different after the weekend. She'd rearranged furniture to feel less clinical, added a comfortable chair across from her desk for initial consultations. Creating safe space was crucial for this kind of treatment. Min-ho noticed immediately. You changed things. For you, actually. Sexual dysfunction therapy requires trust, which requires comfort. She gestured to the chair. Have a seat. We'll start with history. He sat with controlled grace, but she noticed his hands gripped the armrests slightly. Nervous. Medical history first. Amara began, pen poised over her notepad. Any chronic illnesses, medications, previous injuries that might affect sexual function? No. I'm healthy. Annual physical last month showed everything normal. His jaw tightened. Physically, there's nothing wrong with me. When did the symptoms begin? 8 months ago. Suddenly. Completely. The words came out clipped, practiced, like he'd rehearsed this. I was with someone. Everything was normal, and then nothing. Like my body just stopped responding. Amara made notes, keeping her expression neutral. Had you experienced any major stress, trauma, or life changes in the weeks before? Minho's silence stretched long enough to become an answer. Mr. Kong, I need complete honesty. Doctor-patient confidentiality protects everything you tell me, but I can't help if you hold back. I killed someone 2 days before. The confession came out flat, emotionless. A man named Park Sung-min. He was running a prostitution ring using trafficked teenagers, some as young as 13. Amara's pen stilled, but she forced herself to keep listening. I made him watch recordings of what he'd done to those girls. Every rape, every beating, every transaction where he sold them like livestock. Minho's voice remained eerily calm. Then I made him watch me burn down every property he owned. His clubs, his warehouses, his home. Everything. After that, I killed him. The silence in the room was deafening. How did you kill him? Amara asked quietly. Does it matter? Yes. The details matter. Your brain is associating something from that experience with intimacy. Minho looked at her then, really looked, and she saw the shame he'd been hiding. I beat him to death with my bare hands. It took 17 minutes. I counted. Amara's stomach churned, but she kept her expression professional. And 2 days later, you tried to be intimate with someone? With a woman I'd been seeing casually. Someone who understood what I was, what I did. He laughed bitterly. Except my body apparently didn't understand anymore. I couldn't. He cut himself off, jaw clenching. Nothing. No arousal, no response, nothing. Like that part of me just died. It didn't die, Mr. Kong. It's protecting you. From what? I don't regret what I did. Park Sung-min deserved worse. From the violence you witnessed in those recordings. From associating intimacy with the brutality you saw inflicted on others. Amara leaned forward slightly. Your mind knows the difference between justice and sex. But your body experienced such extreme trauma vicariously that it's created a defense mechanism. It's trying to stop you from connecting physical intimacy with the violence you witnessed. Minho stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. I'm not broken. You're traumatized. There's a difference. She set down her pen. Mr. Kong, what you're experiencing is actually a sign that you're more human than you think. Your body is telling you that what you saw was so horrific, it can't separate sexuality from violation anymore. That's not weakness. That's your psyche trying to protect you from becoming the very thing you destroyed. For the first time since they'd met, Minho's carefully controlled mask cracked completely. His hands were shaking. Can you fix it? The question came out barely above a whisper. Can you make me whole again? I can help you heal. But it won't be quick, and it won't be easy. Amara held his gaze. You're going to have to confront things you've buried. Talk about violence, about power, about what intimacy means to you. Are you ready for that? I don't have a choice. In my world, weakness is death. Then let's redefine weakness. She pulled out a treatment plan she'd drafted. For the next 6 months, we're going to work on separating trauma from intimacy, rebuilding your relationship with physical connection, and addressing the underlying guilt and shame you're carrying. I don't feel guilty. Your body does. And until we reconcile that, nothing will change. Minho took the treatment plan, reading it carefully. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Mindfulness exercises. Gradual exposure therapy. Even couples counseling if he found a partner willing to participate. This is a lot. Healing always is. Amara stood, signaling the end of their session. Same time next week. And Mr. Kong? No investigating me. No showing up at my apartment. No interference. You agreed to boundaries. I did. He stood as well, tucking the treatment plan into his jacket. But I didn't agree to stop worrying about your safety in that neighborhood. My safety is my concern. Everything about you is my concern now, Dr. Okonkwo. He moved toward the door, then paused. Whether you like it or not. The following week, Amara's apartment building got new security. She arrived home to find cameras installed, the broken front door lock replaced, even the dim hallway lights upgraded to motion sensor LEDs. Her landlord, Mr. Park, stood in the lobby wringing his hands. Dr. Okonkwo, I'm so sorry. A man came, very polite, very generous, said you'd requested these upgrades. I didn't request anything. Amara pulled out her phone, dialing Minho's number with shaking fingers. What did you do? Improved your building's security. His voice was maddeningly calm. The locks were 40 years old, the cameras didn't work, and that broken streetlight outside was a liability. I fixed it. You violated our agreement. No interference. Our agreement specifies no interference in your practice. Your personal safety wasn't mentioned. A plus. Though if you'd like to add that clause, I'll comply. After I finish upgrading the fire exits. The current ones violate building codes. He was right. Damn him, he was technically right. You're impossible. I'm thorough. There's a difference. She could hear the slight smile in his voice. See you at our next session, Dr. Okonkwo. He hung up before she could argue further. 2 weeks into treatment, Minho started bringing coffee. He never handed it to her directly. Instead, he'd leave it at reception before his appointments. Always her exact order, Nigerian coffee blend with honey and cinnamon from a specialty shop in Gangnam that charged 15,000 Korean wons per cup. You need to stop this, Amara said during their 3rd session, gesturing to the coffee cup on her desk. Stop what? Being considerate. Minho's expression was innocence itself. You mentioned in our 1st session that you missed good Nigerian coffee. I found a place that imports beans from Lagos. That's not the point. Then what is the point, Dr. Okonkwo? He leaned forward slightly. You said I needed to practice normal human kindness without expecting anything in return. Isn't that what I'm doing? She wanted to argue, but he neatly trapped her with her own treatment plan. Fine. But nothing else. No more building upgrades. No more gifts. What about dinner? Amara blinked. Excuse me. You eat instant ramen 4 nights a week. I checked your... At her glare, he corrected himself. I noticed you look tired recently. Proper nutrition helps with stress. Let me take you to dinner. Professionally. We can discuss my treatment progress. Absolutely not. That crosses every boundary. 1 meal. Neutral location. We'll discuss my homework. He pulled out the mindfulness journal she'd assigned him. I completed every exercise. Don't I deserve some acknowledgement? Despite herself, Amara looked at the journal. He had completed everything. Detailed entries about his emotional responses, his triggers, his attempts at meditation. The handwriting was precise, controlled, but the content was raw, honest. This is good work, she admitted. Then have dinner with me. 1 hour. Public restaurant. You can even choose the place. His eyes held something she couldn't quite read. Please. The please did it. Seoul's most feared man, asking instead of demanding. 1 dinner. We discuss treatment only. And you pay your tab, I pay mine. Deal. Minho's smile was small but genuine. Though I'm warning you now, I won't honor that last part. 3 days later, they met at a Nigerian restaurant in Itaewon. Mom Ngozi's place was small, family-run, with plastic tablecloths and the best jollof rice in Seoul. Amara had suggested it partly as a test. Would the ghost of Gangnam balk at eating somewhere without white tablecloths and wine lists? Minho arrived in casual clothes, no bodyguards visible, and greeted Mom Ngozi in halting but respectful Igbo that made the old woman's face light up. You speak Igbo? Amara asked, shocked. Poorly. I've been learning. He held out her chair. You mentioned missing home. I thought understanding your language might help me understand you better. Something warm and dangerous bloomed in Amara's chest. Over plates of jollof rice, fried plantains, and egusi soup, they talked. Not about treatment at first, but about everything else. Minho asked about Lagos, about her family, about why she'd chosen sexual medicine as her specialty. Because everyone else was too embarrassed to, Amara admitted. Sexual health affects everything. Relationships, self-esteem, mental health. But people treat it like a shameful secret. I wanted to change that. You're changing it for me. Minho's expression was serious. I've spent 8 months feeling like less than a man. You're the first person who made me feel like I could be whole again. You were always whole, Minho. You just couldn't see it. She'd used his given name without thinking. His eyes widened slightly, then softened. Say it again. What? My name. You've never used it before. He leaned closer. I want to hear it again. Minho. Her voice came out softer than intended. We should probably stick to Mr. Kong. No. I like the way you say it. Like I'm a person, not a title. His hand moved across the table, stopping just short of touching hers. Can I ask you something personal? That depends on the question. Why are you still single? Someone like you, brilliant, beautiful, dedicated. Why hasn't someone claimed you? He crept up Amara's neck. Maybe because I don't want to be claimed. I want to be chosen. There's a difference. Teach me the difference. Claiming is about possession. Choosing is about partnership. She met his gaze directly. Claiming says, you're mine. Choosing says, I'm yours if you'll have me. Something intense flickered in Minho's dark eyes. And if someone chose you? Really chose you every day, made you the center of their world, would you choose them back? The question felt loaded with meaning beyond their conversation. I don't know, Amara admitted. No one's ever tried. Then they were fools. Minho's voice dropped lower. Because if I were choosing someone, Dr. Okonkwo, I'd choose you. Every time. Without hesitation. The air between them felt electric, dangerous. Amara should have deflected, maintained professional distance. Instead, she heard herself ask, why? Because you see the worst of what I am and still believe I can be better. Because you're brave enough to challenge me. Because when you smile, really smile, not that polite professional mask, it feels like sunlight. He finally closed the distance, his fingers brushing hers. Because I think about you constantly, and for the first time in 8 months, My body is starting to remember what wanting feels like. Amara's breath caught. Minho, we can't. I know. I'm your patient. It's unethical. Impossible. His thumb traced gentle circles on her palm. But I needed you to know anyway. That you're not just healing me professionally. You're making me feel human again. Later that night, Amara couldn't sleep. She kept replaying his confession. The warmth of his hand, the intensity in his eyes. This was dangerous. He was her patient. She had ethical obligations, professional standards. But she also couldn't stop thinking about how lonely he looked when talking about being broken. How vulnerable. How desperately he wanted to be whole. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. That wasn't my intention. I'll maintain proper boundaries from now on. But I meant every word. Mate. She should have left it alone. Should have reinforced those boundaries. Instead, she texted back. You didn't make me uncomfortable. You made me feel something I probably shouldn't. We need to talk about this at our next session. His response came immediately. I'll be there. Thank you for not running away. Not yet, anyway, she thought, staring at her ceiling. But ask me again in 6 months. The next session crackled with unspoken tension. Minho arrived precisely on time, professionally dressed, but Amara could see the wariness in his eyes. Waiting to see if she'd terminate their treatment, push him away. We need to discuss what happened at dinner, she said immediately. I understand if you want to refer me to someone else. I don't. The admission surprised them both. But we need clear boundaries, Minho. What you're feeling, the attraction, the gratitude, it's called transference. It's common in therapy. You're associating me with healing, with hope, and your brain is interpreting that as romantic interest. Is that what you think this is? He leaned forward, his gaze intense. Transference. I think you're vulnerable right now, and I'm the person helping you. That creates complicated feelings. And what you feel, is that transference too? Amara's breath caught. What I feel is irrelevant. I'm your doctor. You're human first. Minho stood, moving closer but not touching. You felt something at that dinner. I saw it in your eyes, heard it in your voice when you said my name. Don't hide behind ethics when what you really mean is you're scared. Of course I'm scared. You're Kong Minho. I'm just a man who's falling for his doctor and doesn't know how to stop. His voice was raw, honest. Tell me you feel nothing, and I'll never mention it again. Lie to me, Amara. Please. She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. This is a terrible idea, she whispered. The best things usually are. He finally touched her, his hand cupping her face with devastating gentleness. But I won't push. I'll wait. However long it takes for you to trust this is real. Then he left, leaving Amara trembling in her exam room, her professional walls crumbling around her. The following week, everything changed because of Dr. James Wright. Dr. Wright was a visiting urologist from London, renowned for his research on male sexual dysfunction. When he reached out to collaborate on a paper about psychosomatic impotence in high-stress professions, Amara had agreed immediately. It was exactly the kind of academic work that could elevate her practice. They met at her clinic after hours on a Thursday evening, spreading research papers across her desk, discussing methodology and case studies. Dr. Wright was charming, intelligent, and kept finding excuses to lean close when pointing out passages in journals. You have remarkable insight into trauma-based dysfunction, he said, his hand brushing hers as he reached for a pen. We should definitely explore this further. Perhaps over dinner tomorrow. Amara was about to politely decline when her phone buzzed with a text from Minho, running 10 minutes early for our session. Is that okay? She glanced at the time, 7:50 p.m. His appointment was at 8 o'clock. Actually, I have a patient arriving soon, she told Dr. Wright, grateful for the excuse. We should probably wrap up. Of course. Dr. Wright gathered his papers, but lingered at the door. About that dinner. I'm flattered, but I don't mix professional collaborations with personal relationships, Amara said firmly. I'm happy to work on the paper, but strictly as colleagues. Dr. Wright's smile dimmed slightly. I understand. I'll email you the research outline then. He stepped into the hallway just as Minho rounded the corner. The two men nearly collided. Dr. Wright stepped back with a polite "excuse me," then his gaze traveled up, taking in Minho's expensive suit, the cold precision in his eyes, the way he carried himself like violence was always an option. "You must be Dr. Okonkwo's next patient," Dr. Wright said with British politeness, extending his hand. "I'm Dr. James Wright, visiting from London. Kong Minho." Minho's voice was pleasant enough, but he didn't take the offered hand. The color drained from Dr. Wright's face. His extended hand dropped slowly. His eyes widened slightly, then darted to Amara's office door and back to Minho, as if recalculating every interaction he'd just had. "The Kong Minho?" Dr. Wright's voice came out slightly higher than before. "Is there another?" Minho's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I know, Dr. Wright clutched his papers tighter. "It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Kong. I've heard so much about your business acumen." "Have you?" It wasn't a question. Minho's gaze was steady, assessing. "And what brings a London urologist to Dr. Okonkwo's clinic after hours?" "Research collaboration. Purely professional." Dr. Wright was already backing toward the exit. "In fact, I was just leaving. Dr. Okonkwo, I'll email you those files." "Mr. Kong, please excuse me." He practically fled down the hallway, his footsteps echoing in hasty retreat. Minho watched him go with unreadable eyes, then turned to Amara, who stood in her doorway. "Research collaboration?" he asked, his tone deceptively mild. "Yes. On psychosomatic sexual dysfunction in high-stress professions." Amara crossed her arms. "Why did you scare him like that?" "I didn't do anything. I introduced myself." Minho moved past her into the office. "It's not my fault he recognized my name. You knew he would." "I suspected." He turned to face her, and she saw the tension in his jaw. "Did he ask you out?" Amara hesitated, and that was answer enough. "He did." Minho's hands curled into fists at his sides. "And what did you say?" "I said no. Because it's inappropriate to mix professional relationships with personal ones." She held his gaze pointedly. "Which is advice I should probably be taking in other areas of my life too." "That's different." "How is it different?" "Because what I feel for you isn't some casual attraction I can turn off when it's inconvenient." Minho's voice was low, controlled, but she could hear the strain beneath it. "Because watching him lean close to you, seeing him find excuses to touch your hand. Yes, I saw that through the window before I came in. It made me want to break every bone in his body." "You were watching through the window?" "I arrived early. I saw him touching you." His control was fraying. Every time he reached for a paper, he found a reason to make contact. "Did you not notice?" He was being friendly. He was flirting. "There's a difference." Minho stepped closer, and despite herself, Amara's back hit the wall. "He looked at you like he wanted to take you apart and study every piece. Like you were something to be acquired." "And how do you look at me?" The question stopped him cold. "Like you're the only thing in my world that makes sense," he said finally, his voice raw. "Like you're oxygen and I'm drowning. Like if I don't have you, I'll lose the last piece of myself that's still human." Amara's breath caught. "Minho, I know I have no right. I know you're my doctor, that this is wrong, that I'm probably just another patient projecting feelings onto his therapist." He was close enough now that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, the way his pupils had dilated. "But watching him touch you, hearing him ask you to dinner, I wanted to break every bone in his hands. That's not normal. Nothing about what I feel for you is normal." His control finally cracked, his voice rising. "I think about you every moment I'm awake. I dream about you when I sleep. I've had 3 meetings this week with men who could end my empire, and all I could think about was whether you'd eaten lunch, if you were safe, if you were thinking about me even a fraction as much as I think about you. This is obsession, not. It's both." He moved closer, his hands coming up to frame her face without quite touching. "I'm obsessed with you, Amara. Dangerously so. And I'm falling in love with you, which is even more dangerous. So tell me to leave. Tell me you feel nothing. Make me believe it and I'll walk away." Her back was against the wall. She had nowhere left to retreat. "I can't do this," she whispered. "You're my patient. Then discharge me. Refer me to someone else. I'll finish treatment with another doctor." His hands finally made contact, thumbs brushing her cheekbones with devastating gentleness. But don't ask me to pretend this isn't happening. Don't ask me to watch other men look at you and not want to burn down the world. You're not healed yet. I'm healing because of you. Because you make me want to be better, stronger, whole. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I was dead inside, Amara. You brought me back to life. How am I supposed to not love you for that? This could ruin my career. Then I'll fund your own practice. I'll buy you a building, hire the best staff, make sure you never have to worry about insurance companies or debt collectors or anything except helping people. He leaned closer, his forehead almost touching hers. I'll give you everything, Amara. Just don't ask me to stop wanting you. She should have pushed him away. Should have maintained her boundaries. Instead, she heard herself ask, what if this is just transference? What if you only think you love me because I'm helping you? I thought about that. His breath ghosted across her lips. I spent 3 days trying to convince myself that's all this was. It didn't work. Because what I feel when you smile has nothing to do with my treatment. What I feel when you say my name, really say it soft and gentle like I'm worth gentleness, that's not gratitude. That's falling. Minho. She didn't know if she was protesting or pleading. Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me when I'm close like this, your heart doesn't race. That you don't think about me when you're alone. His lips were so close to hers she could feel the warmth. Lie to me, Amara. Please. Because I'm holding on by a thread here. She couldn't lie. The truth was there in her trembling hands, her quickened breathing, the way she hadn't pulled away despite every professional instinct screaming at her to run. This is insane, she breathed. The best things are. His lips brushed her forehead, achingly gentle. I'll wait. However long it takes. But I need you to know you're not alone in this. Whatever you're feeling, I'm feeling it too. Probably more intensely than is healthy. Then he stepped back, putting safe distance between them, though his eyes remained locked on hers. I should go before I do something we'll both regret. His voice was steadier now, controlled. Same time next week for our session? Amara nodded, not trusting her voice. At the door he paused. For what it's worth, I've never felt this way about anyone. And I've tried very hard not to feel this way about you. It didn't work. After he left, Amara slid down the wall to sit on the floor, her hands shaking, her mind racing. She was falling for her patient. For a man who killed people. For someone who could destroy her life with a single phone call. And the worst part? She didn't want to stop. The next morning, Amara found her car wouldn't start. She was running late for hospital rounds when the engine just clicked uselessly. Cursing, she called for a taxi, but before one arrived, a sleek black sedan pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, revealing Minho in the driver's seat. Need a ride, Dr. Okonkwo? His tone was carefully casual, but she could see the slight smile playing at his lips. Did you do something to my car? Your battery was dying. I had my mechanic replace it last night. At her glare, he added, the old one was 7 years old and showing signs of failure. I prevented a problem, not created one. You can't keep interfering. Get in, Amara. You're late for rounds, and this argument will make you later. He leaned across to open the passenger door. I promised to be perfectly professional. Against her better judgment, she got in. The drive to the hospital should have been awkward. Instead, Minho asked about her upcoming day, listened with genuine interest as she explained a complicated case she was consulting on, even offered surprising insight about psychological trauma that made her wonder how much of her research he'd been reading. You've been studying sexual psychology, she said, not quite a question. I've been studying you. He glanced at her briefly before returning his eyes to the road. Your published papers, your treatment philosophy, your approach to patient care. If I'm going to understand what you do, I need to understand how you think. That's actually really thoughtful. I'm capable of thoughtfulness. When properly motivated. His hand shifted on the gear stick, close enough to touch hers on the armrest. You motivate me, Amara. To be better. To think beyond myself. They arrived at the hospital too soon. Thank you for the ride, Amara said, gathering her bag. Amara, wait. Minho's hand caught hers gently. About last night. I meant what I said. All of it. But I don't want to pressure you. Take whatever time you need to figure out what you want. And if what I want is for us to maintain professional boundaries, Pain flickered across his features, quickly controlled. Then I'll respect that. It'll kill me, but I'll respect it. She should have said that's exactly what she wanted. Should have reinforced those boundaries. Instead, she squeezed his hand once before letting go. I don't know what I want yet. But I'm not saying no. His smile was like sunrise. That's enough. For now. Later that day, Amara's world shifted again. She was reviewing patient files when her phone rang, her mother calling from Lagos. Joy Okonkwo rarely called during work hours unless something was wrong. Amara, baby, I have news. Her mother's voice was tight with stress. Your brother. He's been arrested. Amara's blood ran cold. Arrested? For what? He borrowed money from the wrong people. Gambling debts. They're saying if we don't pay 15 million Nigerian naira by next week, they'll... Her mother's voice broke. They'll hurt him, Amara. What do I do? 15 million naira. Roughly 50 million Korean wons won. Money Amara didn't have, even with her debts forgiven. I'll figure something out, she promised, her mind already calculating. She could take out a loan, maybe sell her car. There's more. Her mother's voice dropped to a whisper. These men, they know about you. They know you work in Seoul. They said if we can't pay, they'll come for you instead. The phone nearly slipped from Amara's shaking hands. After hanging up, she sat in stunned silence. Her younger brother Emmanuel had always been reckless, but this was beyond anything she could fix alone. She needed help. And there was only one person in Seoul with enough money and power to solve a problem like this. That evening, Amara went to Minho's office. The Black Pearl Casino sat in the heart of Gangnam, all glass and steel and barely concealed power. Security recognized her immediately. Apparently Minho had added her to some kind of list and escorted her to the top floor without question. His office was nothing like she'd expected. Books lined one wall, classical music played softly from hidden speakers, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering Seoul skyline. Minho sat behind a massive desk, reviewing documents, but stood immediately when she entered. Amara? What's wrong? He was around the desk in seconds, his hands on her shoulders. You're shaking. The concern in his voice, the gentleness in his touch, it broke something inside her. I need help, she said, hating how small her voice sounded. My brother is in trouble in Lagos. Gambling debts to dangerous people. They want 50 million Korean wons won by next week, and they've threatened to come after me if my family can't pay. Minho's expression went deadly calm. Names. I need names. I don't know who they are. Your mother knows. Call her. Get me every detail. Names, locations, organizational affiliations. Everything. He was already pulling out his phone. I have contacts in Lagos. This will be handled. Minho, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. His hands framed her face, his eyes intense. Did you really think I'd let anyone threaten you? That I'd stand by while someone hurt your family? This isn't your problem. Everything about you is my problem now. He pulled her into his arms, and Amara let herself collapse against his chest, exhaustion and fear finally overwhelming her. I've got you, Amara. I promise. No one is going to hurt you or anyone you love. She shouldn't have felt safe in the arms of a gangster. But somehow she did. 2 days later, the problem was solved. Amara's mother called, her voice shaking with relief. They released Emmanuel. Just released him. Said his debts were paid and he was free to go. Amara, what did you do? I asked a friend for help. She glanced at Minho, who sat across from her in her clinic, pretending to read a magazine. Everything's okay now, Mama. Emmanuel is safe. After hanging up, she turned to him. What did you actually do? I made some calls. Had associates in Lagos visit the people holding your brother. Minho's tone was casual, but she caught the edge beneath it. They were convinced to forgive the debt and forget your family exists. Convinced how? Do you really want to know? His eyes met hers, and she saw the monster lurking beneath the man. Because I can tell you. But you might not like the answer. Amara thought about her brother, safe now because of whatever Minho had done, about her mother's relieved tears, about how quickly he'd moved to protect people he'd never met, simply because they mattered to her. "No," she said finally. "I don't want to know. But thank you. For helping them. For helping me. You don't need to thank me." He stood, moving to stand before her. "Taking care of you isn't a favor, Amara. It's a privilege. I can't pay you back. I don't want your money." His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "I want you to stop fighting this. Stop pretending you don't feel what I feel. Minho, I know all the reasons we shouldn't. I know I'm broken, dangerous, completely wrong for you." His voice dropped lower. "But I'm also falling more in love with you every day, and I'm running out of reasons to hide it." Amara's resistance was crumbling. "This could destroy my career. Then I'll build you a new one. Whatever you need, Amara. Just stop pushing me away." She looked up at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd threatened her into treatment and somehow become the person she trusted most in the world. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "So am I." His forehead touched hers. "But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe with anyone else." When he kissed her, soft and achingly gentle, Amara stopped fighting. She kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. Minho made a sound low in his throat, his arms wrapping around her waist, lifting her slightly as he deepened the kiss. It was nothing like the careful, controlled man who sat in her exam room. This was raw need, desperate longing, months of wanting finally breaking free. "Amara," he breathed against her lips. "Tell me to stop." "Don't stop," she whispered back. "Don't you dare stop." His kiss became more urgent, his hands exploring her curves like he was memorizing her by touch. Amara gasped when his lips found her throat, her head falling back to give him better access. "I've imagined this so many times," Minho murmured against her skin. "But reality is so much better." She should have cared that they were in her clinic, that anyone could walk in. But all she could focus on was the way he touched her, reverent and hungry all at once, like she was precious and necessary in equal measure. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Minho rested his forehead against hers. "Come home with me," he said. "Let me take care of you. Just for tonight." Every professional instinct screamed at her to refuse. But her heart, her treacherous, foolish heart, wanted nothing more. "Okay," she breathed. "Just for tonight." Minho's penthouse was a study in controlled luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Seoul's glittering skyline. Modern furniture in blacks and grays created clean lines, but personal touches revealed the man beneath the monster. First edition books stacked on side tables, a vintage record player, photographs of a woman who had his eyes. "Your mother?" Amara asked, touching the frame gently. "She died when I was 12. Father's enemies thought killing her would break him." Minho's voice held old pain as he poured them both wine. "It did, eventually." He became paranoid, cruel. Started seeing threats everywhere, even in his own organization. "Is that why you're different? Why you have rules?" "I'm not different. I'm just better at hiding the monster." He handed her a glass, their fingers brushing. "But with you, I don't want to hide anymore." They sat on the couch, close but not touching, the tension between them electric. "Tell me something true," Amara said softly. "Something you've never told anyone else." Minho was quiet for a long moment, staring into his wine. "I'm terrified of becoming my father," he finally said. "Of loving someone so much that losing them destroys me. That's why I've never let anyone close. Why I built walls so high. I convinced myself I didn't need intimacy at all." He looked at her then. "And then you walked into my life and tore down every single wall without even trying." "Minho, I dream about you, Amara. Not just sexual dreams, though God knows I have those too." A slight smile crossed his lips. "I dream about waking up next to you, making you breakfast, hearing about your day. Stupid, domestic things that should bore me but instead feel like the only future worth having." Amara's throat tightened. "You barely know me. I know you cry when you lose patience even though you did everything right. I know you take your coffee with honey and cinnamon because sugar is too simple. I know you call your mother every Sunday at 9 a.m. Seoul time, which is 2 a.m. in Lagos, because that's when she gets home from her nursing shift." He set down his wine, turning to face her fully. I know you hate injustice so much you became a doctor specializing in the health issues people are too ashamed to discuss. I know you, Amara. Maybe better than you think. That's still just information. Then let me earn more. He moved closer, his hand finding hers. Give me a chance. Not as your patient. As a man who wants to know everything about you. Amara should have said no. Should have left. Instead, she asked, what about your treatment? You're not fully healed yet. I'll see another specialist. Someone you recommend. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I won't let that be an excuse to keep us apart. And if this doesn't work, if we try and fail, then at least we tried. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. I'd rather have you and lose you than never have you at all. The vulnerability in his words shattered her last defenses. Amara leaned forward, closing the distance between them, and kissed him. Minho responded immediately, his hands sliding into her hair as he deepened the kiss. It was different from their earlier kiss at the clinic. Less desperate, more intentional. Like he was savoring every second, memorizing the taste of her. Amara, he breathed against her mouth. Are you sure? Stop asking me that, she whispered back, her hands sliding under his jacket, pushing it off his shoulders. Just, be with me. Please. He stood, lifting her easily, and carried her to his bedroom. The space was as controlled as the rest of his home. Dark sheets, minimal furniture, nothing unnecessary. But when he laid her on the bed and looked down at her, Amara saw something raw and unguarded in his eyes. I need you to know, he said, his voice rough as he settled beside her. This isn't casual for me. This is everything. I know. She reached up, cupping his face. It's everything for me too. That's what scares me. Then let's be scared together. What followed was tender and intense, patient and passionate. Minho touched her like she was precious, like he was afraid she might disappear if he wasn't careful. His lips traced paths across her skin, learning every curve, every place that made her gasp. Beautiful, he murmured against her collarbone. You're so beautiful, Amara. When he hesitated at the clasp of her dress, she guided his hands, showing him she wanted this. Wanted him. The vulnerability in his eyes as barriers fell away between them made her chest ache. Is this okay? He asked, his breath warm against her throat. Tell me if. It's perfect, she assured him, her fingers threading through his hair. You're perfect. They came together slowly, carefully, both trembling with want and wonder. Minho buried his face in her neck, breathing her name like a prayer as pleasure built between them. Amara held him close, overwhelmed by the intimacy of it, not just physical but emotional, like their souls were touching along with their bodies. I love you. Minho gasped against her skin as they moved together. God, Amara, I love you so much. I love you too, she breathed back, the confession escaping before she could stop it. I love you too. When they finally tumbled over the edge together, Minho caught her cry with his mouth, kissing her through the waves of pleasure until they both collapsed, tangled and breathless. After, he held her close, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her shoulder. Stay, he whispered. Not just tonight. Stay with me. Amara should have been practical. Should have thought about the complications, the ethics, the impossibility of their situation. Instead, she said, okay. The next morning, Amara woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. She found Minho in the kitchen, shirtless and cooking, looking completely domestic and utterly beautiful. When he noticed her watching from the doorway, his smile was soft and genuine. Good morning, he said, crossing to kiss her forehead. I made breakfast. Nigerian style, tried to recreate what I saw at Mama Ngozi's place. On the counter sat plantains, eggs, and something that looked almost like akara. You made akara? Amara couldn't hide her surprise. I called Mama Ngozi at 6 a.m. and had her walk me through it. He looked almost bashful. I wanted your first morning with me to feel like home. The thoughtfulness of it made tears prick her eyes. Minho, you didn't have to. I wanted to. He pulled her into his arms. I want every morning to start like this. With you here. With me making you smile. They ate breakfast together, talking and laughing, and for the first time in months, Amara felt completely at peace. Later that week, reality intruded with violence. Amara was leaving the hospital after a late shift when a black van screeched to a stop beside her. 3 men jumped out, and before she could scream, a cloth pressed against her mouth. Chloroform. The clinical part of her brain recognized it, even as darkness swallowed her whole. She woke in a warehouse, tied to a chair, her head pounding. A man in an expensive suit circled her slowly, middle-aged, cold-eyed, radiating the same controlled violence as Minho but without the warmth beneath it. Dr. Okonkwo. Finally. His voice was cultured, almost pleasant. I'm Lee Sang-woo, and you're going to help me destroy Kong Minho. I don't know anything about his business, Amara said, fighting to keep her voice steady despite her racing heart. You don't need to. Sang-woo smiled cruelly. You've already done enough just by existing. The ghost of Gangnam, brought to his knees by a woman. My sources tell me he's been distracted, sloppy, making mistakes. All because of you. Whatever you think I mean to him. He raided 3 of my warehouses last night after learning I'd been asking questions about you. Sang-woo leaned closer. He killed 18 of my men. Personally. Because I got too close to his precious doctor. Amara's blood ran cold. So you see, Dr. Okonkwo, you mean everything to him. Which makes you the perfect weapon. He pulled out a phone, filming her. When he sees this video, he'll come for you. And when he does, I'll be waiting. He'll kill you, Amara said quietly. Perhaps. But I'll destroy him first by making him watch you die. Sang-woo's smile was vicious. And if I'm very lucky, the great Kong Minho will break completely, and I can pick apart his empire while he's drowning in grief. Hours crawled by in that warehouse. Amara tried to stay calm, to think like the physician she was, assessing her injuries minor, her surroundings industrial isolated, her chances slim. She refused to cry, refused to give Sang-woo the satisfaction of seeing her fear. But when she thought about Minho seeing that video, about him walking into a trap because of her, terror threatened to overwhelm her. Then the warehouse doors exploded inward. Minho entered like a force of nature, flanked by a dozen armed men. But it was his eyes that made even Sang-woo step back, cold, dead, and promising annihilation. Let her go, Minho said, his voice eerily calm. Do it now, and I'll make your death quick. You're outnumbered, Kong. Am I? Shadows moved in the rafters. On the catwalks. Behind shipping containers. Sang-woo's men realized too late they were surrounded. You brought an army for one woman, Sang-woo said, almost admiringly. She really has destroyed you. No. Minho's gun rose, steady and sure. She saved me. You just made the mistake of threatening my salvation. The firefight was brutal and efficient. Minho's men moved with military precision, taking out Sang-woo's guards in coordinated strikes. But Minho himself went straight for Amara, cutting her bonds with hands that shook despite his controlled expression. Did they hurt you? He demanded, checking her for injuries. Tell me they didn't. I'm okay, she assured him, even as tears started falling. I'm okay, Minho. Behind them, Sang-woo made a desperate grab for a weapon. Minho moved with frightening speed, his gun firing once. Sang-woo dropped, clutching his leg, screaming. That's for taking her, Minho said coldly. He fired again, hitting the other leg. That's for scaring her. He walked closer, standing over Sang-woo. And this is for making me imagine a world without her. The final shot was execution style, professional and final. Then Minho was back at Amara's side, pulling her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I thought I'd lost you, he said, his voice breaking. I thought I was too late. You weren't. You came for me. I'll always come for you. He pulled back just enough to see her face, his hands framing it gently. Always, Amara. No matter what. The following days were a blur of police statements and danger assessments. Minho refused to let Amara out of his sight. She stayed at his penthouse, surrounded by security, while he systematically dismantled what remained of Sang-woo's organization. You need to stop, she told him one evening, watching him review reports of eliminated threats. This cycle of violence ends when you're safe, he interrupted. Every person who worked with Sang-woo, everyone who knew about you, they're gone, Amara. I won't risk you again. At what cost? Your humanity. I lost that long ago. He set down the papers, turning to face her. But I found it again with you. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep you in my life. She crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. Then stop killing and start living. Really living. With me. Something shifted in his eyes. Understanding, maybe, or hope. What are you saying? I'm saying I'll stay. Not just for tonight or this week, but for as long as you want me. She kissed him softly. But I need you to choose me over revenge. Choose us over the violence. Done. No hesitation. Tell me what you need, and it's yours. I need you to go legitimate. Really legitimate. Amara held his gaze. Transition your businesses. Work with prosecutors instead of against them. Become the man I know you can be. That could take years. Then we have years. She smiled. I'm not going anywhere, Minho. But I need to know the man I love won't end up dead or in prison. He kissed her then, deep and promising. I'll do it. For you, I'll do anything. 3 months later, Minho announced his cooperation with prosecutors. In exchange for immunity on specific charges, he provided information that dismantled 3 major criminal organizations. His legitimate businesses, real estate, entertainment, security, became his focus, and slowly, methodically, he built an empire that didn't require bloodshed. Amara watched him transform, pride swelling in her chest. She'd also made changes. She'd referred Minho to a colleague for the remainder of his treatment that was working, slowly but successfully. She'd opened her own practice with Minho's backing, a clinic that specialized in sexual health and trauma recovery. They built a life together. Messy, complicated, but real. 6 months after the warehouse, Minho proposed. He did it simply at home, over breakfast in his kitchen. Their kitchen now. No grand gestures, no elaborate planning. Just him on one knee, holding a ring. I know I'm not perfect, he said. I know I'm still working through trauma, still learning how to be the man you deserve. But I love you, Amara. I love you more than I thought I could love anything. Marry me. Please. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, you impossible, wonderful man. Yes. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. Amara's mother flew in from Lagos, crying happy tears and hugging Minho like he'd personally hung the moon. Minho's inner circle attended, looking slightly bewildered but genuinely pleased to see their boss smile. When they exchanged vows, Minho's voice shook with emotion. You saved me, he said. In every way a person can be saved. I promise to spend the rest of my life worthy of that gift. You were always worthy, Amara whispered back. You just needed to believe it. 1 year later, Amara stood in their bedroom, holding a positive pregnancy test. Minho found her there, staring at it in shock and wonder. Amara? What's wrong? He saw the test, and his eyes went wide. Are you? We're having a baby, she said, laughing and crying simultaneously. Minho, we're having a baby. He was across the room in seconds, lifting her off her feet, spinning her around while laughing like she'd never heard him laugh before. Pure joy, unguarded and complete. We're having a baby, he repeated, setting her down gently, his hands immediately going to her still flat stomach. We're going to be parents. Are you happy? Amara asked, searching his face. Happy doesn't begin to cover it. He kissed her softly, then knelt, pressing his forehead against her stomach. I'm terrified and ecstatic and so grateful I could burst. You've given me everything, Amara. Everything. 9 months later, Minho held his daughter for the first time. She was tiny, perfect, with her mother's dark skin and her father's eyes. He stared at her in wonder, this man who'd once thought himself too broken to love. She's beautiful, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. She's so beautiful. Just like her father, Amara said softly, watching them. Like her mother, Minho corrected. He looked up at Amara, love and gratitude shining in his eyes. Thank you. For believing in me. For loving me. For giving me a reason to be better. You gave yourself that reason, Amara said. I just helped you see it. That night, with his wife and daughter sleeping peacefully beside him, Minho thought about the journey that had led him here. From broken and desperate to whole and grateful. From the ghost of Gangnam to simply a man, a husband, a father, someone who'd found redemption in the most unexpected place. He'd gone to Dr. Okonkwo's clinic thinking she could fix his body. Instead, she'd healed his soul. And as he watched the Seoul skyline glitter outside their window, his daughter's tiny hand wrapped around his finger, Minho knew he'd finally found what he'd been searching for all along. Not power, not respect, not even physical healing, but love. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. And it was worth everything.